Today on the Bone Barrel Podcast, it's Nazis versus punk rockers in our review of the modern horror classic, Green Room. Later, join us as we discuss the infamous Monster of Worcester, David McGreavy. It's all here on the Bone Barrel Podcast.
Welcome everybody to another installment of the Bone Barrel Podcast, where a guy who looks like Homeless Squidward who covers horror movies and a guy who looks like Patrick Starr covers true crime. And one of us is gay, but can you figure out which one it is?
I think they already figured it out, Richard.
Yep, it's Brian. With me is my co-host
Brian Almeida.
And myself, Richard Jones.
So, okay, the last time that I talked to you, you told me that you had watched Bordello of Blood.
Yes, I did.
Okay. What did you think?
Honestly, it was the worst thing I've ever seen in my freaking life.
Man. Oh, dang it.
I mean, don't get me wrong. It made me laugh. It had a lot of laughs. And there's a lot of times where I wanted to roll my eyes. There's times I just wanted to be like, oh my god.
Why am I here?
Like, why am I here?
Why
am
did
I
I
watching?
say I would do this?
Yeah. And
I
gotta say, the infamous scene that you told me to watch, which was the ballroom blitz scene.
Hell yes.
That was the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen in my fucking life.
One of the greatest scenes in horror cinema.
Literal super soaker.
Yeah.
Just pss, pss, pss.
Super soakers filled with holy water.
JC or
sweet on the soundtrack.
JC having a little pistol. At one point, he shoots a girl and just the torso goes flying towards the roof and she explodes. Yes. And I was like, what the hell?
Hell yeah. It's such a wonderful movie.
Ian, my partner, I showed him the cat scene. I was like, I watched this.
Oh, yes, the Party City cat.
Yep.
Did you guys see the lever?
Yeah. I put it at half speed because I actually rented it on YouTube.
Okay.
The first night that I had rented it, I had fallen asleep. I told you this. And Ian said he woke up in the middle of the night and it was tits on the screen. He's like, what are you watching? And I told him, I said, oh, it's Bordello of Blood. And he's like, what? And he goes, yeah. And I was like, do you not know what a bordello is? And he goes, no. Yeah, he didn't know what a bordello was.
What? Ian didn't know what that meant?
I said, bordello is an Italian whorehouse. And he goes,
it's Italian for whorehouse, yeah.
And he goes, oh, okay, now it all makes sense.
How funny. Yeah, we'll take this. Yeah, have a drink, Richard. Yeah, hey, cheers to that. Here we go. There we go. First drink of the podcast right here. Mm-hmm. Oh, yes.
So those that who don't know us, we are now friends, but when we first met each other, we had an uncomfortable meeting. Let's go with that. I thought
I get way too comfy with people way too quick.
Yeah, when somebody says "What up, baby" to you, you think they're hitting on you.
Okay, all right. But I didn't say, "What's up, baby?" I was like, "What up, baby?" Like, just being dumb because I could tell immediately that you were cool and that you would probably deal with my stupid jokes and voices and stuff, and you do. See, I was right. What I really appreciate about our friendship is that we're both so culturally different.
Oh yeah.
I'm straight, you're gay. I tend to be more conservative in my viewpoints and you tend to be more liberal in your viewpoints. And none of that shit matters, we're still friends. We both have a love for scary stuff, and I'm into horror, you're into true crime.
My scary stuff's more real though.
Yeah, 100%. Oh, I got a good dose of real for you today, man. Welcome to Horror Reels, where we conduct deep dive reviews of horror films. This movie is truly a modern horror classic, critically acclaimed. It's called Green Room. This movie came out in 2016. It was directed by Jeremy Saulnier. If I'm going to sell you on this movie, okay? The plot is about a young punk rock band that gets held hostage by a group of Nazis led by Patrick Stewart. Okay? So
Patrick Stewart.
Hell yes. So Picard, right, from Star Trek, the bald guy. Professor Xavier in the old X-Men movies, right? Yep. I already killed that beer. Ladies and gentlemen, let you know who you're dealing with. All right.
A raging alcoholic.
Absolutely.
He's gonna beat me.
Yeah. Richard's gonna love it. I'm like, no!
Not like this.
This isn't how I pictured it. To jump into this movie, it was shot in the Pacific Northwest. It was shot in Astoria, Portland, and Seaside, and surrounding areas. So it was shot right next door to us in Oregon. Yeah, absolutely. This movie was also a passion project for Jeremy Saulnier, the director and writer. He was in a punk rock hardcore band as a kid back in the day, and he wanted to make a horror film that captured the essence of that time in his life. And as always, this is the Bone Barrel Podcast, and so these cuts are heavily spoiled. If you haven't seen this movie, you can always go and check it out on your own, come back and listen to the podcast, or just be honest with yourself. If you're not going to watch the movie, just hang out right now and listen to the podcast. So the movie starts, and it's an opening title card, just boom, green room. And we open up on Pat, played by Anton Yelkin. We discussed this on the last episode. He played Charlie Brewster in the remake of Fright Night. The movie starts, it's a close-up on his face, and he's passed out in the back of this van.
Okay.
He wakes up, and he's in a van with his fellow bandmates, the Ain't Rights, and they all kind of start waking up, and he's looking around, and he sees that they are in a cornfield. We see a shot of the road and where they veered off, and there's a path blown through in the cornfield, and now their
They
van
probably
is
just had a little
parked.
too much to drink or something.
Sure, right?
I mean,
And
being a band, you know.
exactly. So in the front seat, you've got Tiger, the lead singer. He's got green hair. And in the passenger seat, you've got Sam. She's the only female in the group, and she's the guitarist. She's played by Alia Shawkat. I don't know if you've ever seen Arrested Development.
I might have, but
She played the character Maybe. She was a kid. It's just so funny. Michael Cera was in it. If you ever get a chance to watch it, it's
oh my God, Michael Cera.
fucking great. Alia Shawkat, she plays Sam, and she wakes up in the passenger seat, and she kind of smacks Tiger, and she's going, wake up, like, what'd you do, Tiger? And it's perfect because it's exactly what a dipshit would say, waking up and realizing that he ran everybody off the road and fell asleep. He wakes up and he goes, what, did we crash? And she's like, you tell us, asshole. So we cut to them outside. Now we establish that it's 7 o'clock in the morning. They're out of gas and they are on tour. Sam is looking around on her phone and she realizes that there's a skating rink 11 miles away. And Pat, our main character, is pulling a bike out of the back of the van. He's pulling all this equipment, this big duffel bag full of stuff, and he's pulling it out. And he's going, all right, I'll make the trip. And she's going, well, I'll go with you. So we cut to a shot of him riding the bike. He's got the duffel bag on, and Sam is sitting on the back seat. And they pull up to Seaside Skating Rink. And there's a bunch of parked cars there early in the morning. They run up on the parked cars and they pull out their duffel bag, and we realize that they've got gas siphoning equipment. They've got a gas can, they've got the hose and all that. And we see as an audience, this is how they're making it. They don't have any money. They're a touring band. They're siphoning gas to get to the next gig. This is what they're doing. We cut to them getting the van started, getting back on the road. And we get some nice ambient music and some shots of them traveling through the Pacific Northwest. Just my goodness, we just live in such a beautiful area. We cut to a close-up of a text conversation between Tad, played by David Thompson, and he's talking with the Ain't Rights on his phone, and he's saying, I'm the guy with the mohawk. Their van is pulling up, and they're meeting him in Astoria. It is so clearly Astoria. It's so cool, Richard. He approaches their window, and he gives them a set of keys to his apartment, and he says, hey, guys, I'm working overnight, but, just feel free to crash. I'll meet you guys in the morning. So we cut to the interior of Tad's apartment, as the Ain't Rights all snoop through his place a bit. Tiger goes through Tad's record collection. Tiger with the green hair that ran them off the road. He comments to the other band members looking through Tad's record collection. He's going, this dude's legit. And Reese, our drummer, our tough guy drummer, kind of chimes in. He goes, why? Because he wakes up at 5 a.m. and puts jizz in his hair. When Tiger's so used to this, he's going, no, because he's true. And he starts to put a record on. Pat, our main character, states that he wants to go to bed, and Sam informs him, that's fine, the rest of us are going to drink. It's this cool little shot. Tiger puts the record on, and he kind of smiles at everybody. The band Fear, their song Legalize Drugs. We get like 2 seconds of Legalize Drugs before we cut to the next scene. It's the next day. Pat is waking up, and the place is trashed. They were clearly drinking all night. He starts cleaning up. There's a knock at the front door. He answers, and it's Tad, the owner of the apartment. And, we can't see Pat's face, but Tad does. And Tad looks at him and he goes, were you the first to fall asleep? And we cut to Pat in the mirror, and he's got fucking Sharpie all over his face, right? They drew all over him while he was sleeping.
That's funny.
Tad is interviewing the Ain't Rights for his radio show, and it's a wonderful little scene. We established that they're from Arlington in Virginia, and they are on the opposite end of the country.
Please do not leave your belches in, dude. People will turn it off.
I won't. They are far away from home. So Tad comments to them. He's like, so you guys are hard to find. Like, why don't you have any social media presence? And Reese, the tough guy drummer, says, booking more shows and selling more records would blow. And Tiger, the lead singer, states, it's not hard rock. Pat, their bassist, our main character, he begins to describe music and everything they're doing as this creative force that can only be experienced live. Its existence is like fleeting. He's explaining to Tad that, music is something that can't be transcribed digitally. It can't be shared on social media. It has to be shared live. It has to be there in the moment, and then it's over. They're not chasing money. They're not chasing fame. They are chasing the music, and they're chasing this dream. They are true blue punk rockers, and they're doing it for the love of the art. But with that territory, they have no real responsibilities or like long-term plans or goals. They're truly living by the whim of the wind and living in the moment.
All right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, the interview continues, and Tad introduces a segment that he regularly conducts on his program, and he asks each member of the band, who is your desert island band? Who is the band or artist that if you were stuck on a desert island and you could only listen to their discography but nobody else, who would it be? So, Richard, I'm going to ask you super quick.
Okay.
Who is your desert island band?
Oh. Counter question. Is it only their old music that's created now, or is it as they create new music? Do you listen to them?
That's a good question. I would assume that it means that everything they've created up to this point.
Because the ones I would choose are still making music.
That's fine. Okay, then, and it just, yeah. Who is your
Linkin
desert?
Park.
Lincoln. Wow, I never would have guessed. Linkin Park, huh? Damn. Okay, that's sick.
That new singer they got,
Mm-hmm.
she's awesome.
Okay.
Pretty good.
Can I tell you, I'd have to say mine would probably be System of a Down.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, but you're more hardcore than me.
Maybe, but I just really love them a lot. Anywho, Tad asks these guys, what's your desert island band? And they're throwing out all these fucking hardcore bands. Tiger says the Misfits.
Ooh.
So they're naming off the Misfits and Poison Idea and Cro-Mags. And Pat, our main character, is struggling to come up with a desert island band. He's really trying to think of one. And he starts being accused of being a juggalo, or maybe listening to Britney Spears. Sam asks Tad, hey, when is this interview going to air? We want to plug the show. And Tad kind of turns off the recorder and he goes, my permit was pulled recently by the county commissioner. Last show had a lot of puke and fecal matter. They pulled my permit, can't really set you up with this gig that I promised you, basically. And they're going, we came here for this interview and you promised us a gig. Dude, you got to give us like a severance fee or something. We came all this way. We came way out of our way. And he's going, don't worry about it. I've got another gig lined up, and you'll headline. And they're going, well, is anybody else playing? And he's like, no. So we cut to a Mexican restaurant. It's the interior of a Mexican restaurant. There's maybe like 11 people around, including like waitresses.
So no Mexican restaurant.
Yeah. It's what is it? It looks like a Tuesday afternoon at a Mexican restaurant at like 3. Yeah, nobody's there. You know what I mean? And they're playing their hearts out. And it's raw and it's not perfect, but it's also supremely awesome. And there's this guy standing in the corner and he's all bored filming the whole thing. We cut to them outside and Sam is counting the money from the pay. And she tells Tad, she's like, dude, you booked us this gig. We're making like $6.87 a piece. And we realize that Tad has forfeited his share of the cut. So there's 4 members of the Ain't Rights. They made $28 total. Reese, our tough guy drummer, almost fucking obliterates Tad, almost beats his ass. And the other members of the Ain't Rights aren't having it. They're going, hey, jujitsu, chill out. So Reese fucking gets off of him. The Ain't Rights are debating, maybe we should just go back home and maybe we should just kill this tour right now. We're fucking broke. If we take this $28 and we put it into gas, if we siphon the rest of the way home, then we can get home. Tad apologizes and he offers up another paying gig if they're willing to dip down closer to Portland. So we cut to outside of Tad's apartment where they're dropping him off, and he explains that the gig pays $350, and then he tells them, just so you know, it's mainly boots and braces down there, which means this place is full of Nazis, this venue that you're going to go play. So through this conversation, we realize that Tad has a cousin in the skinhead movement. He's setting them up with his cousin where his cousin works, this venue in the middle of nowhere. It's run by Nazis, and he's going, keep it to your heavier stuff. Don't talk politics. You'll be good. And these guys, they have $28 collectively to their name. And so they're going, okay, fuck it. And so they decide to take this gig. We get this brief scene where they're near this pier and they're camping out. They have a bonfire and they're camping out for the night. And then we cut to them driving through the Pacific Northwest the next day. We cut to them pulling into the Nazi venue. And they're pulling into the venue, and it's this gravel road, and people are kind of walking up to the building. And it's shot from the interior of the windshield. And watching this scene, it always... If you've ever, like, pulled up to somewhere, Richard, like maybe a house party or a bar somewhere where you felt like you didn't belong.
I've never been to a house party, but bars, yes.
Okay, where you pull in and you see people kind of joining the party here, and you kind of...
Brian, but I was the nerd in school.
So was I, man, 100%. That's why we click like this.
Okay.
So they pull up, and they are greeted by Daniel, Tad's cousin. Now, Daniel approaches the vehicle and begins conversing with Tiger. And he's going, oh my gosh, you guys kind of look like shit. Tiger's telling him, yeah, man, one night at Tad's house, we'll do that to you. And he goes, and by the way, if you and your girl are planning on staying there, and Daniel gets real fucking tense real quick, and he fucking chokes Tiger out. And he goes, whoa, bro, don't be talking about me and my girl and our plans, nothing. Tiger's like, okay, shit, I didn't realize. We meet Gabe, played by Mackin Blair. He's wonderful. With this guy, it's all in the eyes. He's got very sympathetic eyes. And you see what I'm saying? He's got very sympathetic eyes, and it's very easy to feel for this man. He's very great at looking sad. Gabe, played by Mackin Blair, approaches, and he's asking, hey, who's the drummer? He approaches Reese, and he's going, are you going to use the house kit or using yours? And Reese says, I'll use mine. And so Gabe says, all right, let me show you where to load up your shit. Sam notices that the sign at the front of the venue is advertising a band called Cowcatcher and the Aren't Rights. We cut to the interior of the venue, and it's hard as fuck. It's metal as fuck. The walls are painted black. There's fucking graffiti everywhere. There's a bar in the corner. Skinheads everywhere. There's fucking death metal playing, and they're going like Angel of Dark, Demon of Death, and whatever they're saying. These guys are just balls out metal Nazis, right? And 100% just balls out metal Nazis. And we watch the Ain't Rights as they're led backstage to the green room by Gabe, our sympathetically eyed character. And he informs them, hey, sound check is in 15, you're going on in 20. So he leaves them, and it's just the Ain't Rights in the green room. And what's really cool about the green room is that the way that they filmed, there's shades of green throughout the room. It's very cool to look at. Pat, our main character, he asks Tiger, hey, are you okay, man? And Tiger's like, I'm fine. Pat is wearing a fucking Minor Threat t-shirt. Okay, now I'm going to say this much about this movie, and I'm going to leave it alone. I'm grateful to this movie for introducing me to Minor Threat. Minor Threat is a wonderful band. So awesome. Such good punk rock. Minor Threat. Pat eyes a Confederate flag on the wall, and he looks at his band members, and he's like, hey, y'all, I got a dumb idea. And now he's got their attention, right? So we cut to the stage, and they're going on in a moment. Richard, this is my favorite scene in the whole movie. We cut to the stage where the Ain't Rights are running sound check. Reese is pounding away on the drums, right? And Tiger's on vocals, and he's going, testing, 1, 2, meow. Sam is on guitar, and Pat is on bass, and we come in on the middle of a conversation between Sam and Pat, and she's telling him, this was your fucking idea. She goes, you back out now, I tell them all you're Jewish. So Pat had some crazy idea, and he's having second thoughts, and Sam, the guitarist, is going, no. I'm going to fucking tell them you're Jewish if you don't go through with this. Yikes. Right? Tiger goes, hey, everybody, we are the Ain't Rights or the Aren't Rights. Either one. And he goes, 2, 3, 4. And they break into their cover of the Dead Kennedys, Nazi Punks, Fuck Off. This scene is so important for numerous reasons, but first and foremost because it makes us as the audience respect and love these characters. They are true blue. They are who they say they are. They're a hardcore punk band who's in it for the love of the art. And there's nothing more punk rock than telling your audience to go fuck themselves. Right? And they had the balls to do it for a venue full of fucking Nazis in the middle of nowhere. So this scene really makes you love and respect these guys. They're kids. And they perform, and of course the Nazis aren't loving it. Some of them look fucking pissed, and somebody throws a beer bottle. One guy, an angry ginger named Worm, who comes into play later, right? He walks by and he spits beer in their general direction. And Pat on bass sees this, and then he notices an interaction in the crowd between Daniel, who greeted them when they got there, his girlfriend Emily, and their friend Amber. Amber is played by Imogen Poots. She played the girlfriend in the 2011 remake of Fright Night. Pat, our main character, the bass player, played Charlie. So there's a couple horror movies that they did together. Kind of cool. Pat notices an interaction between Daniel and Emily and Amber, and it's clear that Amber and Emily are friends. The Ain't Rights finish the song, and nobody's clapping, but some of these guys, you can see it on their faces, they respect that this band had the balls. Like one guy kind of half throws up a fist. So the song ends, nobody's really clapping, and Tiger says, "Thank you, that was a cover," and he's breathless. And they go into their next song, Coronary. The kids in this band actually played their own instruments. The songs were recorded separately and I think by different artists, but as far as filming is concerned, these guys played their own instruments, and Reese, the drummer, had to learn to play the drums. The lead singer had no experience with singing or music of any capacity. It's very raw, but it's awesome. And we get this nice scene. The Ain't Rights are playing their hearts out, and the Nazis are jumping around and enjoying this music. Everything is slow motion, and we're not hearing the music anymore. We're hearing beautiful ambient music playing over this whole thing. It's a really beautiful moment because, number one, this punk rock band and these Nazis, two totally separate opposite walks of life, are united through their love of music. It's also a beautiful moment because this is the last time that the band will be doing what they love together. We cut to the hallway outside of the green room, and Sam, the guitarist, is collecting the pay for the gig from Big Justin. He's played by Eric Edelstein. Big Justin is a bear of a dude, like a young John Goodman. And he's telling them, hey, sorry I couldn't let you into the green room again. We gotta let the next band have their time in there, yada, yada, yada. He tells everyone to follow him down the hall, and he even offers them some beer for the road. And Sam realizes that she left her phone charging in the green room, and so Pat offers to go get it for her, and he heads back. Pat barges into the green room, and he's going, "Excuse me, everyone," and he sees the body of a girl, Daniel's girlfriend, Emily, and she's been stabbed to death. She's got a fucking knife sticking out of her head. She's laying on the floor. She's been stabbed to death by Worm, the angry ginger that walked by and spit beer at them. He's a member of Cowcatcher. And we see Amber, Emily's friend, standing over her dead body, and she's got tears in her eyes, and she looks shocked. And she asks Pat if he can call the police. Big Justin barges back into the room, and he tells Pat, "I told you to follow." Pat runs down the hallway, and he tries to call the police on Sam's phone, and he gets a hold of them, and he's trying to flee, and he's telling them there's been a stabbing, but Gabe, the sad-eyed guy, confiscates the phone. He hangs up the phone, and he tells everyone to wait, that something terrible has happened. There's one shot where we see Gabe exit the venue, and he goes outside, and he walks across some gravel. It's daytime in the Pacific Northwest. He walks across some gravel. He goes into this pop-up trailer, like those pop-up trailers like in high school or like middle school.
Oh, yep.
He comes back out, and he's got this bulge in his pocket. And then we cut to the interior of the club again, the hallway, and he greets everybody, and he's got a fucking Magnum. He's telling the band, he's like, "All right, let's get back in there." And they're going, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa." And he's like, "It's fine." He coaxes this young, naive band back into the green room and tells them, "It's going to be fine. It's going to be fine." The band goes into the green room, and they all see the young, pretty girl on the floor. She's got a fucking knife in her skull. So now it's the members of the Ain't Rights and the members of Cowcatcher, Amber, it's Big Justin, and it's Gabe. And they're all in the green room together. And the cell phone is now ringing, and everybody's arguing and yelling at each other. So we also establish at this scene that the PA system, the sound for the whole club, can be controlled from the green room. As Big Justin tells one of the members of Cowcatcher, "Hey, turn down the sound in here. I don't want to hear the metal band playing outside." So he turns it down. Gabe yells for everyone to be quiet because the phone is ringing. He answers it, and it's the cops, of course, calling back because Pat's call about the stabbing
It
was
suddenly
cut off. Exactly. So the cops are calling back, and Gabe answers, one of the Nazis, and he's going, yeah, I was calling to report a stabbing. And he exits the green room and leaves everybody there, right? Everyone is kind of standing around in shock, and it's just silence. Gabe comes back in from his phone call, and we learn that the cops are on their way, and Darcy, the owner of the venue and the leader of this Nazi group, he's on his way. So Tiger says, you guys can't keep us here. And Gabe says, we're not keeping you, you're just staying. Tiger's like, what are you talking about? And Gabe is yelling at everybody going, just relax, and he exits again. Big Justin locks the door behind him, and he says, you see how easy that was? All hell kind of breaks loose for a second because Amber fucking freaks out. Amber flips out and jumps on Worm, and she's beating and clawing at him, and he barely even resists her. He's a big, tough guy, and she's restrained. We cut to the interior of an on-site trailer, and we meet a new character, Clark, played by Kai Lennox. He's sitting at a desk, and he appears to be a bookkeeper of some sort. Gabe, Mr. Sad Eyes, comes in and he tells him that he needs $600 cash. And Clark tells him, you just signed out $350, which was clearly for the band. And Gabe is telling Clark there's been a murder. He gives Gabe the money, and we cut to Gabe and Clark walking through the gravel heading to the building. And they mentioned bringing in 1 or 2 true believers. So back in the green room, everybody's silent and kind of standing there shocked. Sam ponders that maybe Emily isn't dead, and Worm, the guy that killed her, walks up to the body, and he starts attempting to yank the knife out in front of everybody. So much so that he starts dragging the body. He braces down and pulls it out. This spurt of blood comes out, and it starts pooling around her. And he's got this cold-ass line, man. He pulls that knife out, and he just kind of looks at everybody, and he goes, there it is. The Ain't Rights ain't feeling it no more, and Tiger begins to try to talk his way out of this situation with Big Justin, going, look, man, we didn't see anything. We were so drunk. We had no idea what was happening here. And Big Justin says, no, we're going to wait for the cops. Outside in the gravel lot, we see that Gabe is paying these 2 twin skinhead brothers. He's paying them $600 to stab each other.
What? Wait, they're twin brothers, and he's just stab each other.
Uh-huh. So you understand that they're covering up the real stabbing that happened in the green room by paying these 2 kids to stab each other. And we see that Clark, the bookkeeper, is out there with them as well. Gabe tells the kid, as the cops are approaching, he tells them, above and beyond, gentlemen, he's commending them, and they're very much paying their dues in this organization. As the cops approach and they begin apprehending the twins, and of course the twins comply, they get down on their knees and hands on their head. Darcy, played by Patrick Stewart, approaches in a pickup that reads 24-hour emergency service, and he exits the vehicle wearing a cap, but we don't see his face. And Darcy is super smooth and super cordial. He removes his cap very gentlemanly, and we see from behind that he's a skinhead. And so in the green room, it's all silent still. There's a knock at the door, and Big Justin answers the door, and it's Gabe. And he orders Cowcatcher to get out. The Ain't Rights are starting to go, well, what about us? And they're told to wait. Worm is headed out the door when he suddenly turns around and he stares Patrick down again. And he tells him, I liked your set. And Worm approaches him and he says, what was the name of your second to last song? And Pat says, Toxic Evolution. And Worm nods at him and he goes, it's fucking hard, man. And then he goes, that's the one that I did her to. He's telling him, this song that you were playing on stage, that's what I like. I killed her to that song.
Yeah, ooh.
You see what I'm saying?
Okay.
Fucked up. Worm leaves and Pat looks like he wants to die. So the whole Cowcatcher band is now gone. Reese says that maybe they should all just rush Big Justin, and that Big Justin only has 6 bullets. And Justin has a really great monologue here where he points the gun at Reese's face and he tells him, they're called cartridges, not bullets. The bullet is the part that enters your brain if you keep talking shit. And this gun only has 5 cartridges, not 6, because they're big as fuck. And only 5 fit in the cylinder. I'm gonna murder the shit out of you if you keep talking, okay? So outside, Clark is raiding through the Ain't Rights van with a flashlight, and Darcy, the leader, is gathering intel from Gabe, Mr. Sad Eyes. It's clear through this conversation that Darcy is super smooth, cool-headed, supremely intelligent, and thorough. Gabe says, look, I was doing my best to buy some time with the cops by staging the stabbing, and I was trying to keep the situation contained. And they have this great back and forth where Darcy's like, contained? This could have all been avoided if you had just told the cops the truth. Now we're all in the stew for an impulsive act. And we get from this conversation that now they're gonna have to fucking murder these witnesses. They're gonna have to murder the Ain't Rights because this got way too complicated. Clark, digging through the van, he finds their gas siphoning equipment in a bag. And Darcy says, that's good, that's awesome. And he tells Gabe and Clark, look, no guns when we do this. So back in the green room, the band is debating whether or not they should rush Big Justin. Big Justin still got the gun pointed at them. And Gabe, Mr. Sad Eyes, comes knocking. So Gabe, through the door, tells Big Justin to open the door. And Sam tells him, fuck no. You know, that's not happening. Gabe on the other side of the door is like, what's going on? And Big Justin tells him, they're threatening to rush me. And Gabe tells Big Justin through the door, he says, do not shoot them. Give them the gun. And Big Justin's like, say again. And Gabe tells him, hand the gun over, take the bullets out, and hand it over. Do not shoot them. Big Justin is going, well, is Darcy here? And we hear Darcy going, I am. Big Justin's like, fuck. He starts emptying the cartridges, hands the gun over. And we see Reese, the tough guy drummer, in the background slowly making his way behind Big Justin. He's starting to block the door. Amber informs the band that Darcy, the guy speaking, is the owner. And Darcy is saying, gentlemen, I'm so sorry about all of this. I'm playing catch-up myself in this situation. And Amber is telling them this is all bullshit. Pat tells Darcy through the room, he's like, look, we can open the door for the police. Basically, we don't trust that you're not gonna murder us. Big Justin is trying to be like, all right, I'm out, and he's trying to leave, but Reese, our tough guy drummer, blocks the door, and he won't let him out. And the band is realizing they can't let Big Justin out. Tiger suddenly rushes Big Justin, and he bites his shoulder, so Justin decks him twice in the face and sends him sprawling before Reese jumps on Big Justin and he begins choking him out. And they fall to the ground, and Reese has Big Justin in an arm lock. Amber calmly walks up and she just puts her foot right on Big Justin's face. The band shoves a couch in front of the green room door, and they've got Big Justin hostage now, and Pat retrieves the cartridges from Big Justin and hands them to Sam, and she reloads the gun. So Sam, the guitarist of the Ain't Rights, she's got the gun. Darcy can hear all the commotion from outside, and he's asking how things are going, and Pat says they're gonna wait for the police, and Big Justin is fine, but he's gonna wait too. So we cut to out in the hall, and Darcy is rubbing his temples in frustration because he just wanted to get this door open, get Big Justin out, and fucking murder this band that witnessed this killing. But it's way too complicated now. So Darcy is rubbing his temples, and he's like, understood, gentlemen. And he turns around, and he's thinking. And Gabe is standing there, and he goes, do you think they know? And Darcy suddenly loses his cool and fucking face palms Gabe into a wall, and he goes, I think they're smarter than you.
He face palmed him like in our last story where the Papasistics slammed their heads into.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess so. You know, maybe not head slammed Papin style.
I'm trying to use that from now on. Head
Papin
slammed,
style.
Papin style. Oh, Lord.
No, but that's what he does. Darcy loses his cool. Mr. Calm and collected in control face palms Gabe into the wall, and he says, I think they're smarter than you. And this is so clearly an inordinate thing for Darcy and for their whole organization, because Clark, this bookkeeper, he's like, whoa. It's like, Darcy, man. And they all have this awkward moment where they're standing there, and Gabe is against the wall, and he's fucking, like, weird. And Darcy is standing there, and he goes, I apologize. Darcy exits, and Gabe and Clark follow. Inside the green room, Pat is helping Tiger up from the ground. Reese still has Big Justin in an arm lock, and he debates snapping his arm. Sam, the guitarist, does not feel comfortable holding the gun, and she asks someone to please take it. Reese says that he'll take it once he lets Big Justin go, and he tells Big Justin that once I let go, you're gonna calmly get up and sit crisscross applesauce. And he makes him say it. So as Justin is saying it, fucking Reese pushes off of him with his legs and grabs the gun. Reese points the gun at him, and he makes him lean against a chair. So now we cut to the bookkeeping trailer with Clark, Darcy, and Gabe. And Darcy is asking, have you fed them yet today? And Clark says, it doesn't matter, they're professionals, they earn. Darcy says, you might lose a couple by the morning, and we realize as this conversation goes on, they're talking about attack dogs. We cut to outside. Darcy and Clark are going over pricing per dog, and they make their way back into the venue, and metal music is fucking blaring over the speakers because the next band is playing. Darcy explains that we need to clean up the residence, and he's going, you know what, maybe leave a roach in an ashtray,
What?
Oh, chronic.
Right. Yeah,
Mota, right?
I got it.
So it doesn't look too clean for the cops. Darcy asks for the keys to the 8 Rights van, and Gabe says, shit, I think they have them. And he's going, well, we need them. And they make their way into the main venue, and a metal band is thrashing for the crowd. As Darcy and Gabe walk by, it looks like Worm on guitar and vocals, and it looks like Cowcatcher performing. So they fucking murdered this chick, and now they're headlining this concert. Right. And Darcy and Gabe are just walking by. Darcy and Gabe make their way to the bar, and they ask the bartender where Daniel is, and the bartender says he stepped out. So outside, Daniel sits parked in his car, motor running, looking like he's ready to go. Now, if you remember, Daniel and his girl are going to go crash at Tad's, but the moment that the 8 Rights got there, and Tiger said, hey man, when you guys go crash there, and Daniel's like, don't fucking talk about that, shut up, don't talk about that. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Okay, so Daniel is in his car, and he's clearly like ready to go, and he looks kind of on edge, and the motor is running, and Darcy approaches him and he compliments him on his ride, and then he tells Daniel that they're going to require his services immediately, and that it's red laces only tonight. Red laces in the skinhead movement, this is real shit, means that if you have red laces in your boots, you have shed blood for the movement.
Oh, okay.
Daniel is asked to forfeit his car keys in case they have to play valet, move cars around later. So Daniel complies, and he gives his car keys. Daniel asks them what's going on, and they don't tell him, and he clearly looks troubled, but he reluctantly goes with them. So back in the green room, Amber and the 8 Rights are investigating their surroundings, and Reese makes Big Justin sit in a chair and turn out his pockets. Big Justin pulls out a knife and tosses it on the floor, and then he pulls out a cell phone and he fucking snaps it in half, and he goes, oops. Then the lights go out and it's pitch black, and everybody's panicking. Suddenly, Amber, the Nazi chick, she flicks a lighter, and everybody goes quiet, and she lights a cigarette. And Amber slowly walks over to Big Justin in the dark with her cigarette, and she hands him the cigarette, and she tells him to smoke it, and then she tells Reese, if the cherry does something that you don't like, shoot him. And Amber settles in with her lighter still lit. We establish in this scene that Amber doesn't consider herself a Nazi, and Pat asks her, how can you fall for this shit? And she says that the people who hurt her growing up weren't white, and she says it was a problem where she lived, so she's justifying why she's with this racist clan. And Pat asks her, well, what about tonight? Do you think we have a white people problem? I just love that line so much. So out in the concert hall, Darcy is on stage. So the lights have just gone out, and he's got mic in hand, and he's telling the crowd, it looks like we tripped on Main, and we've got to stop the show, and the audience is super bummed. And he's just trying to get this crowd that's there for the concert, he's trying to get them out the door. And so he tells them, sorry about that. Next time you guys come in, free drinks from 2 to 4. Darcy reminds the crowd about the racial advocacy workshop on Wednesday.
The workshop?
Dude, fucking crazy, these racists. And he goes, and remember, this is a movement, not a party. Outside in the lot, the patrons are making their exit, driving off, and Daniel approaches a group of red laces to recruit for the evening. We see Worm chugging a beer and tossing it aside out into the woods before getting in his car. Then we cut to inside one of the trailers that they have on site, and Darcy is retrieving a small packet from a safe. It's clearly heroin. Outside, we see Darcy and Gabe approaching Worm, parked in his car, and Darcy says, tell Worm and these guys we'll give them some heroin, they can go get high if they just go hide out for a couple days until this whole thing blows over. So we see, Gabe and Darcy approaching, and he gives Worm the heroin. And then we cut to a group of red laces physically pushing the 8 Rights van down a dirt road, so it's starting. In the green room, Tiger has noticed daylight coming from a section of floorboards, and he marks it with an X. And Darcy comes knocking on the door, and he says, we're ready to get you out. Pat asks, where are the cops? And Darcy says, it got complicated and the cops are gone. And Darcy is like, look, you have a loaded gun, but we have way more guns. We don't want anyone harmed. We just want you out. The firearm you have isn't registered, and I wanted it out of the picture before the police arrived, but you refused, and so here we are. And they're all going, this is bullshit. Darcy tells him, look, whatever you saw or did concerning this murder. It's no longer my concern. All I ask is that you understand that you were held here for your own safety before you were released. Pat, Amber, and the Ain't Rights are debating what to do. It's clear that these kids are ill-equipped to deal with this situation. They're kids. They're not fighters. They're a punk rock band. They don't want this fight, and they're not capable of succeeding in this fight.
That's ironic for a punk rock band.
But they're kids.
You gotta stand up for your rights.
Sure, but they didn't come here to fight off Nazis with guns. You know, they were just here to play a show. Pat tells Darcy, look, we'll trade this gun for a cell phone. And Darcy's like, nope. No way. Darcy tells him, we all know if you don't hand this gun over, it's not going to end well. Look, for all I know, I come to my place of business and there's an out-of-town band locked in a room with an unregistered firearm and somebody's hurt inside there and maybe there's a hostage. What do I do? Am I within my rights to intervene? Should I kick down the door and start shooting? Or can we just remove the guns from the equation? Gives them 30 seconds to answer what they want to do. So Pat says, hold on. And Reese tells Big Justin, all right, get back down on the floor. And he hands the gun to Sam. And he gets down on the floor and he locks Big Justin in an arm lock. And Sam kneels over Big Justin. Pat tells Darcy that he'll give the gun, but he's keeping the ammo. And he's crying. Darcy agrees that it's safer for everyone. And Pat asks Darcy, look, stand back from the door. And at the foot of the door, Amber, our Nazi chick, she's kneeled down and she's looking through a vent in the door. And she sees Darcy step back. Pat slowly opens the door and he sees Darcy for the first time in this painted black hallway. Pat tells Darcy, I'm going to toss the gun out. Pat slowly reaches the gun out the door, and because the door is now open and slightly angled, Amber can see through the vent to the left, and she sees a pair of red-laced boots standing there. And she goes, they're killing us. You see the Nazis, their feet rush up to the door, and they're holding his arm out the door, and they've got his shoulder to the door now, and he's stuck with his arm out there, and you hear chopping. And Pat is fucking screaming in pain and going, okay, trying to give them the gun at this point. Tiger approaches with this metal rod and he starts shoving it out in between the crack of the door. So he's thrusting through the door, and whoever these Nazis are, he's hitting them with this metal rod. And Pat is still held in place. And Reese on the floor with Big Justin has a fuck it moment and he snaps Big Justin's arm. And he gets up and he manages to help pull Pat back in. And they shut the door.
On this point, his arm is gone.
Pat's arm is chopped up. It's brutal, and it's hard to look at. He pulls his arm in, they shut the door, they lock it. He's fucking crying. His wrist is hanging off by, like, flesh. He's got all these chops. They macheted his arm. The practical effects look wonderful. Everyone is in shock at what just happened. Big Justin gets up with his broken arm, and he gets up and he clotheslines Amber with his good arm.
What?
And he picks up this box cutter, but Reese jumps on his back again and he takes him to the ground and he begins choking him out. Amber wrestles the box cutter out of Big Justin's hand, and Pat is still screaming, and Tiger is trying to comfort him and trying to quiet him down. Big Justin starts to pass out and Reese lets him go. And then Big Justin begins to come to again. And Amber's going, oh fuck, he's...
Just break his neck.
Reese chokeholds him again, and Amber's like, dude, do you got this? Sam asks how long it's going to be before they know that he's, like, out. And Amber, she's got tears rolling down her eyes, this Nazi chick. She pulls out the box cutter. She takes it to Big Justin's gut, and she slits him up the middle and just guts this dude while Reese is choking him. So Reese backs off of Big Justin, and he's crying, and he's totally disturbed. Everyone is in shock. And outside, it's now night, and Darcy and Gabe are assembling a crew of red laces, including the bartender, and Daniel. Daniel is once more asking them, what's happening? What's going on? And Darcy plays it down and he says, oh, a visiting band hurt one of ours. He's lying to Daniel. It wasn't a visiting band. It was Worm from Cowcatcher. And Daniel asks, who was it? And Gabe tells him it's Emily. And Daniel's like, what the fuck are we doing? Let's get in there. That's his girl. Darcy's cool and collected. He walks right up to Daniel and he's like, we're not coming apart is what we're doing. And then we see a pickup truck approaching, and we can hear dogs barking. Back in the green room, Tiger and Reese smash in the opening in the floor that Tiger marked with the X, and they pry away the floorboards and they drop in. Everyone except for Pat follows. Downstairs, where they chop through the floor, it's a dimly lit bunker made up of 2 rooms separated by a doorway of vinyl curtains, like those long plastic curtains like old school butcher shops. I don't know how this shit works, but they're clearly processing heroin in some capacity.
Well, that's dangerous work. If I'm not mistaken, heroin, if you're not careful, can blow up when you're working with it. I think it's heroin.
It's because you're not supposed to be fucking doing it. That's why. Same with methamphetamine. Don't do drugs,
Oh,
kids.
it's meth. Meth labs blow up.
It's a drug lab of sorts. It's clearly heroin. And Reese, down in that bunker, he finds a steel ladder leading up into the ceiling. It's clearly a door at the top of this ladder. It's locked, and we get an outside shot of the other side of the door, and outside we can just faintly hear him knocking. They're stuck in this room, in this bunker. They can't get out this way. They head back into the green room, and Tiger begins wrapping Pat's arm in duct tape. Reese starts debating taking his chances and fleeing, and Pat begins to tell them a story about a paintball game at a bachelor party, and that they were paired against this group of ex-Marines, and
Lord.
And his story is interrupted now that his arm is finished, and they all decide to take their chances and flee. So he started giving them this pep talk before they tried to escape, but it just doesn't happen. He's interrupted. Sam approaches Pat. She's got this fluorescent light bulb, and she offers Pat a weapon. He declines, and he says he's just going to decide to run. And Sam tells everybody, okay, fuck it. And she tells everyone her real Desert Island Band. So the guitarist from the Ain't Rights, they're about to try to leave. They know that they're probably going to die. And she goes, my real Desert Island Band is Simon and Garfunkel. Right?
All right.
So Reese, the tough guy drummer, realizes what she's saying, and he chimes in and he says, Prince, which I think is
All right.
respectable. Pat still has no answer. Tiger says, I'm still the Misfits, and Reese says, true school, man. You're a real one. And that's a little moment that they have before they decide that it's time. They're approaching the door. They're about to try to make their escape, and Amber, our Nazi chick, she quietly says to herself, Madonna and Slayer. They open the door. Sam fucking chucks her light bulb out into an empty hallway. There's nobody there, but there's metal music blaring over the speakers. She throws the light bulb out. Huge crash. It's a lot of noise. Amber and the Ain't Rights all head down the hall, and they're led by Tiger and Reese. Tiger, our lead singer. Reese, our drummer. Our 2 toughest guys. They make their way into the concert hall, and it's dark, and a door opens. Clark enters. He's holding onto a leash, and it's connected to an attack dog.
Oh, no.
And everyone scatters. The dog zones in on Tiger and attacks him, and Tiger kind of stands there not really knowing what to do, and he's overtaken by this dog, and this dog starts ripping out his throat. Tiger, our lead singer, is going down for the count, and we see Reese, our other tough guy. He finds a side room, and he's trying to escape through a locked door. He can't get it open. He tries to kick it open. It doesn't budge. He finds a window, and he unlocks it, and he crawls out onto the other side into the parking lot outside. He lands on his stomach, and he's immediately overtaken by this Nazi with a fucking machete. Just chops him up on the ground outside. And so our 2 toughest members of the Ain't Rights, Tiger and Reese, are immediately dispatched. It's horrible. And then this Nazi is chopping him up, and he looks down joyously, and he's just so amazed that he just murdered this person. Inside, the dog is still feasting on the throat of our lead singer, Tiger, and we see in a hallway, Sam, our guitarist, she grabs this fire extinguisher from the wall, and she unlatches the hose, and she's ready to use it as a weapon. And she finds this door in the hallway, and she tries to go outside, but she's met by another machete-wielding Nazi. So she screams, and she backs up, and she sprays him in the face with it, and he's momentarily blinded. He closes the door on her, and he locks her in. Back in the concert hall, we see Clark restraining the pit bull, and he's ordering it to attack Amber, who's on the stage, and the dog attacks and he latches onto her leg. And meanwhile, Tiger is fucking dying on the floor. And we see from his perspective that there was a shotgun hidden under the bar. And it's just such a bleak moment of what could have been. And that's what he gets to see right before he dies. Amber tries to fight off the dog. She's on the stage. She tries to fight off the dog with the mic stand, and the microphone that is attached to the mic stand, it gets too close to the speakers and it starts some feedback. And we see Patrick rush out of nowhere from his hiding place, and he grabs the mic and he presses it directly into the speakers, and the feedback is so loud now that it's unbearable. And the dog retreats, and Clark looks pissed, and he's clearly not a fighter. He follows the dogs outside. So Pat Amber and Sam, after trying to escape, they've lost 2 friends. They all head back into the green room. They barricade the door. Outside, Clark cages up his dog, and he tells Darcy, you guys need to kill the feedback in there before I send another dog in. Daniel's like, let me finish the job. What do you need? And Clark hands Daniel a machete, and he says, look, blades only, sloppy is fine, try not to hit bone. So Daniel heads inside with another Nazi, Jonathan, and they've got machetes in hand. Outside, Gabe is dragging Reese's body towards the van. Darcy asks if he's still alive, and Gabe says, yeah, he is. And Darcy says, let him bleed. Later is better for time of death. Inside, Daniel and Jonathan unplug the mics, so there's no more feedback. They break into the green room, and Sam tries to spray them with the fire extinguisher, but it doesn't work, and they easily shove her off, and she retreats into the bunker to go hide. Daniel, machete in hand, is asking, where's Emily? And Amber looks down at Emily's body under a sheet on the floor, and Daniel sees her, and he lifts the sheet up, and he rages, and he wants to know which one of them did it. Which one of the band members killed my girl? She tells Daniel Worm did it from Cowcatcher, and Daniel's saying bullshit, and he wants to know which one of them did it, and Amber's like, dude, do you really want me to say it? You want me to say it in front of him, the other Nazi, Jonathan? So Amber reveals to everyone, you and Emily had a plan to escape this Nazi scene. Worm from Cowcatcher found out, and he fucking stabbed your girl in the head.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Throw him under the bus right there.
Yeah, 100%.
Well, he deserves it.
Daniel looks at Jonathan, and they have this, like, awkward moment looking at each other, and he's like, you should get out of here. Because Jonathan is realizing, like, oh, Daniel's a traitor. So Jonathan, the other Nazi, leaves. Outside, Darcy notes that this whole thing is taking too long, and Darcy's thinking to himself, and he turns, and he spots Daniel's car parked off in the distance. We see Darcy approach the car, and he's got the keys, and he opens up the trunk to Daniel's car, and he starts looking around, and he sees it's full of suitcases and all kinds of personal belongings, and he's seeing all this stuff like they're clearly leaving. Darcy realizes their plan, and he also finds in the trunk a bloody metal bat that's wrapped in plastic, and he looks shocked. Darcy approaches Gabe with the bat, and he tells him, look, this was supposed to disappear after the last boot party. It's evidence of a murder that Daniel was taking with him, probably as like leverage, right?
Yeah.
He grabs Gabe and he kisses his forehead. Mwah. So before, Darcy was super pissed with Gabe about, why'd you make this so unnecessarily hard? Now he's going, bro, thank goodness you did what you did. They were gonna duck out on us with this evidence. So
wow.
Darcy's he's realizing, he's like, oh man, you actually made a good decision, Gabe. Good job, you and Worm. Back in the bunker, Pat, Amber, and Daniel, they coax Sam out from hiding. And Pat and Amber explain that Daniel, this Nazi, is going to help them escape, that he's a traitor, and the rest of the Nazis, if they didn't know, they must know by now. Daniel leads them out into the concert hall, out of the green room, and he's got his machete in hand, and he's trying to lead them out to escape once more. They reach the bar, and Daniel begins digging underneath the bar where poor Tiger saw the shotgun. Daniel starts digging underneath the bar, and Pat finds some shotgun shells on the counter, and he pockets them. Sam finds some discarded whiskey, and she takes a swig as Daniel is abruptly shot in the face. Half his face is just suddenly fucking blown off, and it's the bartender, the Nazi bartender, holding a shotgun, and they've killed the traitor. They've killed Daniel. And so the bartender points the shotgun at Amber, and she swings a mic stand, and she pins the gun against a wall. Sam douses the bartender with the extinguisher, and Pat finds a machete, and he comes up and he swings on the bartender, and he chops across his neck, and he's toast, and Amber takes his shotgun. Clark tries to enter with another dog, but Amber points the gun at him, and he retreats with the dog. So now it's Amber, the Nazi chick, and Sam, our guitarist, and Pat, our bassist, and they all agree that they're going to try to escape out the front door. That's their fucking plan.
Oh my god.
Dude, they go out the front door, and they're immediately met with gunfire by all these Nazis out in the parking lot. Amber takes a shot to the leg, and she nearly drops the shotgun, and Sam quickly picks it up. Clark sends a pit bull to attack Sam. Sam shoots at the dog, and she peppers it, but the dog loses no stride whatsoever, and Sam is overtaken by the dog, and it fucking kills her. Pat drags Amber back inside as Sam is being torn apart by this dog outside. And now it's just Pat and Amber, and they fucking, once more, are in the green room.
Oh my god!
Right. Once more in the green room, barricaded, and we see Pat duct taping her gunshot wound. Outside, we see Gabe taking the keys off of Sam's body, fucked up, and Darcy informs 2 recruits, Jonathan and a new one, Kyle, that they will be sent inside to finish the job. Inside the green room, Amber and Pat are sitting on the couch and they look awful. And Amber asks Pat to finish his pep talk. Pat explains that at that bachelor party paintball game, he and his friend Rick and their friends were paired up against these ex-military guys and they were slaughtered for the first 2 rounds. And Rick on the last match says fuck it and he sprints out into this open playing field, full jackass he calls him, and he smoked this entire team of military vets. Pat tells her, either way, we're not warriors. And Amber grabs a Sharpie and she uncaps it and she tells him, so let's pretend. Outside, in a trailer, Darcy is handing Gabe some red laces. Gabe has not necessarily spilled blood for the cause, but Darcy is so happy with what Gabe has done. And he's going, look, man, you saved us a lot of trouble. This evidence could have left our camp here. You prevented that. Now, you remember, they gave Cowcatcher all that heroin. They said, go lay low for a couple days because you fucking murdered this bitch, right? So now Darcy's telling Gabe, we ought to get a new house band. And Gabe is going, what, do you think Cowcatcher's gonna talk? Darcy says, I'm just worried about their habits. And Darcy tells him, there's a bad batch of dope making the rounds.
Got it.
150%. And he leaves Gabe in the trailer, and Gabe is just, stunned. Outside, Darcy reiterates to everyone that it's crucial that everything is staged away from the venue so that, quote, nothing happened here, right? They want this massacre, this murder, this whatever they're staging to have taken place away from the venue. His crew readies Darcy's truck. Clark is taking a needle to his injured pit because Sam peppered him with a shotgun. Clark is crying. And he tells Jonathan and Kyle, these 2 young Nazis, that this shot that he's giving the dog, it should keep it alive for another hour, and he would consider it a personal favor if the dog died with meat in his teeth, and he gives the dog leash to Jonathan. So Clark and Darcy leave to stage the crime scene. Now it's up to Jonathan and Kyle. They enter the concert hall, and they find the body of the bartender. They make their way to the green room, and we see that the door to the green room, as they're approaching, is quietly closing before they get to it. The PA system kicks on because if we remember, the PA system is controlled from the green room. There's sudden loud feedback ringing in the hall, and the injured pit that Jonathan has on the leash can't get out fast enough, and it escapes out of the building and into the night. So now these 2 Nazis have no dog. So Jonathan and Kyle break into the green room, and Pat drops into the bunker, and his face is covered with Sharpie camo.
Oh my god.
So you've got that mirror. Earlier, when we're living this life of moment to moment, caution to the wind, he's in party mode, and his friends are drawing on him, like, haha, you fell asleep first. Now he's in survival, make decision, strategize mode, and he's got Sharpie on his face again.
So it's
now
change.
It's camo. It's war, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so he drops down into the bunker. He's making all this noise. He's slamming shit around, just sounding as crazy as possible. Jonathan decides to drop into the bunker to go hunt down Pat, while Kyle squats over the hole and watches over the opening in the floor. And we see behind him that Amber is hiding under the couch cushions, and she slowly starts to crawl out. She crawls out and she slits Kyle's throat with the box cutter.
Oh.
And Jonathan turns around and sees, and he wastes a shot from his shotgun trying to shoot Amber. Jonathan yells for Gabe, but Gabe is upstairs in the concert hall with a power washer cleaning up shop. He can't hear. Pat is hiding in the second room of the bunker, just around the corner from Jonathan. Jonathan slowly approaches, and he's got his shotgun in hand. And Pat swings the machete at Jonathan, but he's blocked by the vinyl curtains separating the 2 rooms, and the machete kind of hits Jonathan, but not really. Jonathan falls to the ground, and he fires, and he misses Pat. From the opening in the floor above, Amber yells for Pat, and we see a pair of legs hanging down. Jonathan fires again at the opening in the ceiling, and the body drops. A pistol scatters across the floor, and we see that Amber used Emily's body as a distraction. Jonathan realizes he's got no shells left in the shotgun. He spots the pistol. He drops the shotgun and goes and retrieves the pistol. The pistol has no bullets.
Oh my god.
He looks up at Amber, and she's holding a full clip. Behind him, Pat retrieves the shotgun, and his arm is all fucked up and chopped up and duct tape up.
Oh, wait, Pat. Oh, I forgot Pat was the one that got his arm chopped up.
Yeah. His arm is injured severely and he's struggling. Jonathan sees him and wrestles him to the ground, and they're both fighting for possession of the gun while both of them are trying to load this thing. In the meantime, Amber quietly drops down like Spider-Man into the bunker, and she's got her clip in hand. She grabs the pistol, she loads it, and she sneaks up behind Jonathan during the struggle, and she shoots him twice, once in the neck and once in the head. They head back up into the green room, guns in hand, as Gabe is entering the green room in his cleaning apron. Pat and Amber ask him if there are any more dogs or people around, and he tells them no. They're up the road staging a fake crime scene. Gabe removes his cleaning gloves and he tosses them to the ground. He spits. He's standing there and he tells them, I don't want to go to jail. And so Pat and Amber hold Gabe by gunpoint and he leads them out the front door. So the Nazis are all gone because they're staging this.
A crime scene up ahead.
Exactly. There's a car outside, but no one knows how to hotwire it. And Gabe says, you know what? He tells them it's safest to stay off the roads anyway. So he leads them through the woods. Amber has the shotgun pointed at his back, and they hear distant gunshots. And Pat is going, what is that? What are they doing? And Gabe looks at them and he says, it's something you don't want to see. Amber tells Gabe to find a phone and call the cops. And Amber tells him, if you try to fucking run on us, if you don't do this, I'm going to find you. So Gabe takes off into the woods. So this Nazi girl, Amber...
Wait, so they let Gabe go?
They let Gabe go. Gabe has told them, I don't want to go to jail. And they're going, okay, cool. Then you help us fucking get out of here. They're at the end of their ropes, Pat and Amber. They just want to survive. That's really what it comes down to.
All right.
Gabe takes off. Pat and Amber continue walking through the woods, and they come upon the staged crime scene. And they see Clark ordering a dog in German to maul the bodies of their friends. This dog is raging on Reese and just chewing his body up. That kid that was hacked up when he hopped out the window and landed on the ground. The dog is dragging Reese's body along, and Clark commends the dog. Good job, and he leads him away. Pat finds the van being started by Alan, the Nazi kid that hacked up Reese on the ground. The one that was like, holy shit, like so amazed, you know? Pat makes his presence known, and he points the gun at Alan's head, and he makes his way around the front of the van, and he goes, you got the dog? And then we cut to Amber on the other side of the van, and she's got the gun pointed at Clark and his dog, and she's going, I got the dog. She orders Clark to tie up the dog, and he does. And so now Pat and Amber order Alan and Clark further up the road, past a private property sign and a sign that says, beware of dogs. And they find Darcy staging the scene. He is making it look like the Ain't Rights pulled up on some private property, broke into private property, started siphoning gas, and they were killed by the property owner's dogs. That's why they've got...
Only machetes, because machete marks can look like the dog tore them apart.
And try not to hit bone. Exactly. We're going to make it look like these dogs got them. They see their siphoning hose and their gas can hanging from Darcy's truck, and the bodies of their dead friends scattered on the ground, and they're mangled by the dogs. Darcy finally spots Pat and Amber and Clark and Alan, and he stops working. Alan starts to speak, and Amber tells him to shut up. Clark, the dog trainer and bookkeeper, goes, listen, and Amber fucking shoots him, takes him out.
Oh, damn.
Mm-hmm. We cut to Gabe in the woods, and he hears the shot, and then he keeps going. We cut back to Clark, and Clark is now dying. Pat asks Amber, so is that what we're doing now? Murdering people? And Amber's like, fucking A. Pat takes a breath, and he looks around at this whole thing, this whole scene, everyone, everything, and he says, this is a nightmare. And Darcy, our Nazi leader, Patrick Stewart, says, for us all. Amber says to Pat, tell me those stupid fucking words are his last. And so Pat points the gun at Darcy now, and he tells Darcy, it's funny, you were so scary at night. And now it's Darcy's turn to have his fuck it moment. This guy that's been cool, calm, and collected, organized, strategic, thorough. It's his moment in the movie to say, fuck it. Darcy turns around and just starts walking away, hoping for the best. He no longer has control. The other Nazi, Alan, runs at Pat, but Amber shoots him with the shotgun. Darcy is still walking away, and he is unloading a gun, a revolver, from his coat pocket. Amber and Pat begin to fire on him. He's in the middle of this stretch of land, like a field.
And they're missing.
They are missing, but they manage to hit him in the back and in the leg. Darcy falls to his knee, and he turns around and he's trying to fire at them. Pat shoots and gets Darcy in the temple, and we get a nice little blood splatter. Darcy, as he's dying, fires off a shot, but it misses entirely, and it hits his own truck, and it's over. Pat and Amber slowly walk up, and they check on Darcy's dead body. Now we cut to Gabe, finally reaching a road out of the woods, and he finds a group of what looks like migrant farm workers, and they're harvesting fruit in an orchard. In this moment, our last scene with him, he is forced to humble himself before this group of minorities to ask for help. We cut to a dark single-wide trailer, and it's lit by the glow of a small TV, and we see Worm and another member of Cowcatcher. So Worm and his fellow bandmate are clearly fucking dying, and it's fucked up because Worm is holding this bowl of, like...
Oh yeah, the sweet taste of black tar heroin.
Which is ironic because they're racists. And then we cut to Tad's apartment, the one with the mohawk, and he's listening to his recording of the Ain't Rights interview as he's vacuuming and cleaning his home. And we cut back to the van where the interview is now playing. And Pat and Amber are sitting on a gravel road, and they're waiting for the police at the staged crime scene. And Clark's injured pit bull approaches from out of the woods, and he rests his head on Clark's body.
Oh,
This poor puppy didn't try to attack or nothing. He just found his daddy and rests his head on him, and they're gonna die together. As they're waiting for the cops, Pat tells Amber, "I know what it is," and Amber says, "What is?" And Pat says, "My desert island band." And they have this great pause where Amber's sitting there thinking, and this punk rock ending to this punk rock horror movie. Amber tells him, "Tell somebody who gives a shit." And we cut to black, and we cut to a Creedence Clearwater song, Sinister Purpose. And I can only assume that maybe Pat's Desert Island Band is Creedence Clearwater Revival. That's the only explanation I have as to why this 70s...
Tell somebody who gives a shit. After what we just went through, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah. And so... that's Green Room. Every time I watch this movie, I discover more things about it, little details. I love to put this movie on and, like, work out. This is a great, like, fucking lifting movie because it's so full of, like, metal and testosterone and angst, and it's a lot of fun. And that was Green Room. Please go check it out.
All right, Brian, I guess I'm going to take it away now.
Aw, yeah, so it's time for...
Real Horrors.
Real Horrors.
Where we discuss all things true crime. So, on today's episode, we discuss David McGreavy. So, David Anthony McGreavy was born in 1951 in Southport, Lincolnshire, to Thomas and Bella McGreavy. Lincolnshire is in the United Kingdom near Great Britain and Manchester. He was the second of 6 children. His father was a sergeant in the British Army, and the family moved frequently between different army posts. In 1967...
So he was... I don't mean to interrupt. So he was an army brat.
Yes.
Okay.
In 1967, David left school at the age of 16 and joined the Royal Navy, following in his father's footsteps, where he had hoped to make a career for himself.
Okay.
However, he was dismissed from the Navy in August of 1971 after he was court-martialed for starting a fire that destroyed a mess wardroom. Now, a mess wardroom, Brian, is a cafeteria of sorts.
He started a fire in a cafeteria?
Yeah, a little arson.
And he's, like, trying to live up to his father's name.
Yes.
Damn.
David then moved back in with his parents.
Okay.
In Worcestershire. His fiance at the time...
Is that how you say it? Worcestershire?
Yep.
Worcestershire.
Worcestershire.
Okay. Why? Why does it have to be so hard?
His fiance at the time ended up breaking things off with him, and he ended up being sacked from many jobs. Fed up with his lack of work and heavy drinking, his parents kicked him out also. Unable to live with his parents, David began boarding with his friend Clive Kenneth Ralph and his wife Dorothy Elsie, and their 2 small children, Paul Kenneth, born November 20th, 1968, and Dawn Maria, born April 25th, 1971.
So now he's rooming with this family.
His friend and his family. Yeah.
His homie and his wife and his kids.
Yep.
Okay.
Now, Clive and Elsie had been school friends. There was a 5-year age gap between them. They had gotten married in September 1968 when Elsie was 16 and pregnant with Paul. They lived on Gilliam Street in the Rainbow Hill district of Worcester. At the time David moved in, Elsie was pregnant with their third child, Samantha Jane, who was then born on the 14th of July, 1972.
Okay.
David ended up getting a factory job, ended up paying £6 a week to Clive.
Okay, so, yeah, David McGreavy.
Yes, is paying rent to Clive.
£6 a week.
Yes.
I wonder what that comes out to. Okay.
Clive worked for his father as a Larry driver. So basically, your average truck driver here in the States. When Samantha was about 7 months old, Elsie became a barmaid at the Punch Bowl pub in Worcester, about 2 miles from the family home.
Okay, the wife.
Yep. With both Clive and Elsie now busy working, McGreavy acted as the babysitter for the Ralph children. David's family and neighbors knew him as a person who loved children, especially including the Ralph children.
He was good with kids.
He was really good with them.
So it's not this guy. No way this guy.
Yeah, he's really good with kids. My kids were playing with him the other week. According to Elsie, he would frequently play with her children and acted like a father to them, going so far as to chastise her over the discipline of Paul.
And he's telling the real
parents. Well, the real mother, at least.
Yeah, you're fucking around. You're not doing the right thing by these kids.
Oh no, time out for 10 minutes is wrong. You should be smacking them.
Annoying.
Or
anyway, yeah, sure.
Give them the patent treatment. No,
yeah.
Friday the 13th, April 1973. Elsie was picked up from work by Clive, who had left home late with the children all asleep. Clive would usually pick her up late in order to help her with closing and, to get a free beer out of it.
Okay, go ahead.
So when the Ralphs arrived at home, they discovered the children and McGreavy missing. They also saw what appeared to be blood spattered all over the walls, and the home was in a state of disarray. So they come home, you come home, and there's blood all over the walls. Your tables are flipped over, chairs flipped over.
Yeah.
So what are you thinking?
You're fucking shitting your pants going,
thinking
the worst.
Both your kids are missing.
Where is everyone?
They drove to the Worcester police station and reported what they had discovered. Police responded to the home and commenced a search of the home and area. The 3 children's bodies were discovered within the hour during a canine sweep of the rear gardens of their house. So imagine so you got the front of your house and then your backyard. And your backyard is you got hedges. Have you ever seen The Secret Garden?
No, but I've seen The Shining.
Okay, not exactly a giant hedge maze, but fancy like that.
The hedges. Yeah. The pieces that make up the maze. So they had to climb, they went in through the back.
They did a canine sweep.
Okay.
And the canines drawed them to the back gardens.
Okay. And they found the bodies of the 3 kids.
Yes.
Or the 2 kids, excuse me.
No, 3.
3 kids.
Yes, all 3.
Motherfucker. Okay.
Yeah. Well, the police then reported to the Ralphs upon their gruesome discovery. So David McGreavy was known to be a habitual drinker.
Okay.
With a violent temper when he was inebriated. He had gone to the nearby Vauxhall pub on Astwood Road earlier that evening with a friend, where he drank 5 to 7 imperial pints, which is equal to 2.8 to 4 liters of beer. So think about drinking 2
liters.
Yeah, 2 liters of Mountain Dew.
Full of beer.
That'd
be awesome.
I don't know if necessarily he was blackout, couldn't handle his alcohol, or if he was just...
It sounds like he was like somebody that drinks and then they get fucking raged out.
Yeah. So him and his friend were playing cards and darts, and a small altercation took place between them.
Okay.
When David put a cigarette out in his friend's beer.
That's
for
fucked
him
up.
to put, I don't know what the reasoning was why he stuck a cigarette in his beer. I'll
excuses.
Probably look into that more later, and maybe on the next episode I might clear it up. So Clive ended up picking up David from the Vauxhall pub and brought him home to look after the children.
Inebriated as fuck.
Yeah, and gets angry when he's inebriated.
Uh-huh.
But Clive makes sure to help him put down the children, because before Clive left, they were asleep. Sometime between 10:15 and 11:15, so within an hour, a drunk McGreavy became infuriated with the Ralph children, starting with the baby, Samantha, because she had been crying for her bottle.
So the baby's crying. And he gets all pissed off.
Yes, the other two I think are still asleep at this point.
Okay.
So, okay, this trigger warning for child murder. Honestly, I have no other way to soften this because it's about to get really dark.
Sure.
McGreavy violently killed Samantha and then the other two children, each in a different manner. 8-month-old Samantha died from a skull fracture. So basically, he beat her head in with his bare hands. With 2-year-old Dawn, he slit her throat. And then 4-year-old Paul, he strangled. I can't
That's
imagine.
fucking awful.
I don't understand what was going through his mind. Because people have known him
Alcohol.
People have known him to love these children. He considered himself a father to these children. So after he killed the 3 children, he went down to the basement and retrieved a pickaxe. He further mutilated their bodies with the pickaxe before impaling the 3 bodies on the spikes of a wrought iron fence.
What the
in the neighbor's yard. And then he left. David was arrested by police at 3:50 in the afternoon on Ombersley Road, 2 miles away from the home the next day. This happened between 10:15 and 11:15, so within an hour.
At night.
This all has happened within an hour because that's how long Clyde was away from the home picking up Elsie. Because in that hour, he helped her clean up and, have a pint.
Okay.
Upon his arrest, he literally asked, what was it all about? Why was he being arrested?
So he's trying to deny, going like, what? Normal people don't black out and murder. This is like demon shit.
At first, David denied any responsibility for the horrible acts that had occurred, but several hours later said, it was me, but it wasn't me. So at this point, okay, you can't say it was a blackout.
What did I just say? So you said, it was me, but it wasn't me. You murder children? That's demonic shit.
Or he's just mentally an unstable person.
Come on.
Think about Brian. He randomly started a fire in a mess hall on a ship.
Yeah, demons love fire, bro.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, calm down, JC.
So stupid.
After which
R.I.P.
After
Jimmy
which
Curran.
he said it was me, but it wasn't me. He described in gruesome detail what he had done. He had told the police that he put his hand over Samantha's mouth, and it went from there. On Paul, I used a wire. Sorry, Brian. I said his bare hands. He used a wire. And
so it wasn't his bare hands on the oldest. He used a fucking wire.
A wire.
What a... Okay, uh-huh.
He said, I was going to bury him, but I couldn't. I went outside and put them on the fence. All I could hear is kids, kids, kids. Kill the kids.
He heard voices saying kill the kids.
Yeah. On June 28th, 1973, David appeared in court and pleaded guilty to all 3 murders of the Ralph children.
Damn.
The hearing lasted only 8 minutes. No defense plea, no motive, and no case of diminished responsibility.
This guy did it.
He's not denying it.
Wow.
David was sentenced to multiple life sentence terms with a minimum of 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
In prison, he was subjected to frequent abuse by other inmates and spent most of his time behind bars in protective conditions. Oh, poor baby.
Yeah, poor guy.
Due to the brutality of his crimes, he became known as the Monster of Worcester.
Mm-hmm.
A former editor of the Sunday Mirror, Paul Conu, stated that although people remembered the crime, the name David McGreavy was not well remembered because of the lack of a lengthy court proceeding. So, because his court trial was only 8 minutes long, there wasn't a lot of media coverage. So in 2006, Brian, this is 2006 now.
Okay.
That's
33?
33 years. David made headlines again after he was transferred to an open prison and allowed to stay in a bail hostel. So
what does that mean? I know what a hostel is.
So imagine a hostel, but where criminals are.
Okay.
But he was only allowed to live there because of the public prison. He was getting abused, smacked around.
Sure.
The Sun newspaper discovered that he was living in this hostel and published a page with a photo of McGreavy, who was released on a temporary license walking on the street. It led to him being transferred back to a closed prison. In 2009, an anonymity order was issued by the High Court of Justice during McGreavy's parole board proceedings, which was resisted by the British Press and Press Association. So basically they're saying, we don't want to give any more media coverage to him because we need to hide him away or whatever, because people are...
Because the mob will come out of the woodwork.
Or
and
whoever, you know.
Pitchfork and torches and take this. Okay.
Now, however, the Secretary of State for Justice is saying, if we do that, then we'd have to do it for everybody. Setting such a precedent would prevent coverage of dangerous criminals. So the order was lifted on May 21st, 2013 by Lord Justice Pitchford of the Court of Appeal of England and Wales and Mr. Justice Simon of the High Court of Justice.
Okay.
Based on the importance of the public interest in possible release of a dangerous criminal and lack of imminent danger to McGreavy. Now in December of 2018, Brian... Mm-hmm. Are you ready to rage, Brian?
I'm always ready to rage, bro.
Now, in December of 2018, following a parole hearing, the report said that he had changed considerably over the last 45 years and legally cleared him for release on parole. Oh, and by the way, Brian, he's still alive now at the age of 73.
Where is he? What's going on?
He's in the UK. I don't know exactly where. He is tagged with a GPS, though, to protect children. And he's also made to continue psychological therapy and counseling. The father, Clive, he passed away. Okay. And Elsie did eventually end up remarrying. She is still alive to this day.
Dude, you gotta hope that he had a change of heart. You gotta hope that he served that time and he regrets it.
I hope I hope those kids are haunting him. I hope he has nightmares about these 3 children. But yeah, that was the story of David McGreavy, the Monster of Worcester, and also the real life Friday the 13th killer.
And that was Real Horrors. Richard, where can the people find us on social media?
People can find us at bonebarrelpod@gmail.com. People can also find us on our X at Bone Barrel Pod.
Feel free to email us or hit us up on X at any time. We'd really love to hear your feedback, any constructive criticism or comments you may have, maybe movies that you'd like us to cover in future episodes, or certainly true crime cases that you'd like us to cover in future episodes. We are the Ain't Rights of the podcast world, and we are doing it for the love of the art. We're going to make lots of stupid decisions out of ineptitude and and lack of wisdom, but certainly our heart is in it for the right reasons, and we just want to hear back from you. Thank you so much for being here. I'm Brian.
I'm Richard.
And thank you for listening
to the Bone Barrel Podcast.